Channels Television. Reporting tonight,
hello and welcome. Tonight, federal government shifts ground on deadline to ASUU to end its industrial action. Says ultimatum now December the 9th. President Jonathan leaves for a security summit in France. Federal government says its commitment to fighting insurgency is unwavering. Candidate of the All Progressive Congress in the Anambra State governorship election heads for tribunal. And South Korean spy agency says North Korean leader sacks the most powerful man behind his government.
And on business news tonight, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry frowns at high import tariff on vehicles, seeks ways to develop the automobile sector.
And on sports news tonight, Nigeria's Super Eagles join in Pot 2 ahead of the final draws for the 2014 World Cup to be held in Bahia on Friday.
And Linda Kibe from Abuja, Archbishop of Lagos Diocese of the African Communion, criticizes the practice of keeping large numbers of inmates in custody without trial.
It appears the federal government has blinked first in the face-off with ASUU. University lecturers will no longer be expected to resume duty on December the 4th after the 7-day ultimatum issued by the Minister of Education. The federal government deadline has been extended to Monday, December the 9th. The Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, Professor Julius Okoji, told journalists in Abuja that the deadline has been shifted to accommodate the burial program of the late Professor Festus Iyayi, a member of ASUU who died in the line of duty. The NUC boss said that all lecturers who resume duties and are ready to work on the 9th will be paid their full salary arrears. He further noted that the leadership of ASUU at the end of its meeting with the president had agreed to call off the strike after several resolutions were reached, which did not include the new conditions recently released by the union.
I must say that, yes, the councils of universities may act that by the 4th of December, any staff who has not resumed will cease to be staff. But the coordinating minister of education, I received an official notification on the burial ceremony, what I call it, arrangement for Professor Iyayi, which is from the 5th to the 7th. So it didn't look too tidy that while he's not been buried, that will go on. So councils have been directed that by the 9th, we now shift that day to the 9th of December to allow those who have traveled to have come back to the setting. I must say that that letter was only received yesterday from the burial committee, which I also forwarded to the Minister of Education. So at the point at which Mr. President was speaking, the full details of the burial arrangement were not in place.
Meanwhile, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs, Dr. Doyin Okupe, insisted that government has met its part of the bargain with ASUU with a payment of 200 billion naira into the CBN account. However, ASUU President Dr. Nasir Fage says that the lecturers have not been officially informed of the said payment and would have expected an official documentation. Our correspondent, Nyota Egbe, reports.
Any academic staff who fails to resume on or before the 4th of December 2013 automatically ceases to be a staff of institution.
That statement by the Minister of Education rocked the boat, eliciting varied reactions from different quarters. It also forced an emergency meeting of the leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. As at 11 a.m. on Monday, the hopes of university students returning to school were dashed when ASUU rose from their meeting.
Of the 52 branches of ASUU, 48, that is roughly 92% of the membership of ASUU nationwide, advised conditional suspension of the strike, i.e. suspending the strike only if certain conditions are met.
According to them, the federal government is not being sincere. They reeled out some major areas of concern, including a new memorandum of understanding, preferably signed by the Attorney General of the Federation, the release of 200 billion naira into an account in the CBN, and the inclusion of a non-victimization clause in the MOU.
I can tell you this morning that an account, infrastructural, university's infrastructural account has been opened in the Central Bank of Nigeria.
But as of Tuesday, December the 3rd, 9 a.m. to be precise, spokesman for the federal government, however, swept them all aside with these words.
Excuse me, so, look at the 4 reasons that has been given. All the 4 reasons have been taken care of. So why are we now still saying that, it is no retreat, no surrender? For what?
But ASUU's president is not moved by mere words.
If truly they have opened an account and the 200 billion naira promised for 2013 had been credited into that account, I think what needs to be done is that let us have a formal communication on that. And then we requested that once that is done and the committee that is supposed to disburse these funds starts working, our members will have no reason not to suspend the strike action. But I think the most important thing at this point is that let there be documentation.
While Dr. Okupe is of the opinion that the members of ASUU don't care, Dr. Fage feels the burden of the strike is heavier on the lecturers.
The truth of the matter is that as of today, there's no longer any legitimate reason for ASUU except for the purpose of subversion to continue 1 day longer with this strike.
We are not happy that we are at home, but it's a sacrifice that we have to make to ensure that our universities begin to compete effectively with other universities internationally. And that is the sacrifice we are making.
The stand-up between the Academic Staff Union of Universities and the federal government has been on now for over 4 months, born out of a 2009 agreement. It's clearly a case of who blinks first, but the earlier this happens, the better for the students and the nation. Now Taigbe, Channels Television News.
And now to security matters. The Senate has demanded a comprehensive account of the devastating attacks carried out by suspected members of terrorist group Boko Haram in the northeastern part of the country. The service chiefs were prepared to appear before the Senate in plenary today, but the upper chamber was forced to reschedule the meeting after the attack on military bases in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. The crucial meeting was scheduled to allow the service chiefs brief the Senate on the ongoing state of emergency in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states. Announcing the deferment of the meeting, the Senate leader, Senator Victor Ndoma-Egba, said the hearing would now take place on Thursday, November the 5th, 2013.
They are set to come, Mr. President, but because of the incident in Maiduguri yesterday, where there was a massive Boko Haram attack on the airport and the metropolis, some of them are obliged to go to Maiduguri. And we think that this Senate should get a very comprehensive report on the security situation, including what happened yesterday. So for that reason, I would like to move that we further defer the appearance before the Senate to Thursday, the 5th day of December 2013, to enable us get a brief or briefing from the service chief that will include the most recent happenings, which are the happenings of yesterday in Borno State.
As the nation continues to wage war against Boko Haram insurgents in northern Nigeria, President Goodluck Jonathan heads for France, where he is expected to participate in the Summit on Peace and Security in Africa. About 50 heads of state and government are expected to participate in the Élysée Palace Summit, which will be hosted by President François Hollande of France. President Jonathan will be accompanied by the First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan, relevant ministers, and the National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired. After the Paris meeting, the President will stop over in Germany for a private visit before returning to Abuja on Saturday. Now, the federal government has restated its commitment to stop all acts of insurgency being perpetrated by members of Boko Haram, a day after a 24-hour curfew was imposed on Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, following sector attacks on an Air Force base and military units. The Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Chris Olukolade, in a statement issued yesterday, said that 24 insurgents were killed in the attacks and that 3 disused aircraft and 2 helicopters were also damaged. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, ahead of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration, the Supervising Minister of Defense, Labaran Maku, says the federal government has no plan to seek foreign military assistance in its fight against insurgents operating in the northeast of Nigeria.
We believe that this war, our armed forces are prepared, are equipped, have the training, have the exposure to be able to deal with the situation. Yes, we can get support from all countries, maybe in terms of training, maybe in terms of sharing of information, but we have not made any requisition that we will have any foreign combatants fighting against this group within our own territory. I believe clearly that what we are facing is a war in which a network of terrorists have chosen a part of our country to attack, and the whole nation is behind our armed forces in dealing with these insurgents. The whole nation, all the 36 states, for example, the entire Borno State governments of all the states where these insurgents are operating are fully behind Nigeria. None of them has any disagreement with Nigeria. And all of us are supporting the armed forces to deal with this incident. It's a group of criminals. It's a group of criminals. It's a group of terrorists.